Luke can't seem to marry the right woman. I spent a lot of time making sure everything was in order before my 2-week vacation. As I leaned back in my desk chair and turned to admire the scenery through the window behind my desk, I heard the pleasant voice of my assistant. "Well, Luke, are you ready for the big day?" "As ready as I'll ever be, Melanie." "Not for the first time." "Make sure this stays true, okay, boss? Don't try to set a record for the number of marriages in 10 years. I smiled. "Are you clinging to me?" "Maybe a little bit. But you're a good guy, and you'll get through all the crap." "Damn, I'm sorry you had to go through." "Call it like it is, Mel. It was a ton of crap. Are you ready to take off? Do you need me to remind you of something?" "No, I think we have already discussed everything. Thank you for offering me time off from Wednesday until Saturday's wedding. Tonight I can just go to the pub and relax before diving into the details for the rest of the time. I'm glad we're keeping this wedding low-key. So, will you report to the HR department if your assistant hugs you tightly? I've never had anything like this before. Melanie has become one of my closest friends and has been special to me since the day I hired her almost 10 years ago at Personal Wealth Financial. I will never forget interviewing her about her work. Her resume made her a top contender, but when she walked into my office, I saw a somewhat homely, thin girl who seemed shy and reserved. It didn't take me long to notice redness around my nose and slightly darkened eyes. The poor girl had a bad cold, but still got her interview. I was impressed enough to invite her for a second interview. It was then that I met a real dynamic personality. True, she was not attractive in appearance. She was skinny as a pole and didn't seem to have an ass big enough to pull up her pants. However, I learned that she was full of confidence and personality, and she exuded beauty that some of the most beautiful girls I knew could learn from. Her husband was a happy man. I decided to relax for a few hours at my favorite pub near my home in Kirkland, Washington, and grab a light dinner. Kaylee, the bartender, has played many roles for me over the years. Beautiful red hair framed the stern face of the woman who was my second mother, confidant, companion, and caring friend. When she was young, I'm sure she was quite attractive, but hard living and smoking took their toll on her features in her late 40s. But to me, she was a wonderful person. She saw me at my worst and always seemed to have the right words when I needed them. The pub was not crowded, smelled of food, and had a peaceful atmosphere. As I sauntered up to the bar, Kaylee looked at me and smiled. "Mister, 3 treasons in the wind. How is my favorite client doing?" "Better than I deserve, Kaylee." "Are you still chained to your man, or are you ready to run away with me?" "What, and ruin your charming bride's important day this Saturday?" "So, business as usual, Luke?" To her. As Kaylee hurried to the tap, I noticed an attractive woman sitting alone 3 stools away from me. I guessed she was somewhere closer to 35. She bit her lower lip and gave off a slight grin that seemed to be the result of Kaylee and I's banter. I decided to be neighborly and say hello. "Hello." Her forehead wrinkled and her eyes sparkled suspiciously as she looked at me over. "You don't look drunk." I raised an eyebrow. "This is the most interesting greeting anyone has ever greeted me with." "No, I'm not drunk. The bartender said you were on edge. I assumed she thought you were drunk." "Oh," I grinned. "This is her nickname for me, but this is not 3 cheats. That's 3 betrayals." "Great. Another guy who can't keep it in his pants." She seemed to bite her lip a little harder, and the frown on her face told me that this was something painful for her. Just as I was about to speak, Kaylee placed a beer in front of me and came to my aid. "Lady, Luke is one of the sweetest and most loyal men I have ever met. He never cheated." Sadness darkened the woman's face, her lips trembled. "Sorry." I was almost sure tears were about to come, so I nervously reached out my hand to calm her down, hoping to avoid the emotional torrent that seemed imminent. "No problem. I'm Luke." She shook my hand quickly and frantically, as if she was afraid of human contact. "No, I'm very sorry. I guess you can call me, I've been cheated on too many times to count, or Linda for short." "Nice to meet you, Linda for short." "Sorry, sensitive subject?" Her mood improved significantly after my words. I hate women's tears, and the change in her mood was encouraging. Yes, definitely a sore subject. But something tells me that there is a whole story behind your experience with 3 infidelities. Probably, but I'm not sure you want to hear it. Continue, Luke. Tell her your story, Kaylee intervened. It's fascinating. Linda faked a pout at me. Please? You leave me no choice, do you? Yes, they answered in unison. Okay. Let's see where I should start. Harper. Life doesn't always turn out the way we expect. I knew my marriage was over long before our first anniversary. The funny thing is that I wasn't that upset about the end of my marriage, but my self-confidence was shaken. I first met Harper my senior year of high school. I was an 18-year-old virgin, and she was 18 too, but she was far from pure. I wasn't actually looking to meet her, but a group of friends brought us together. I should have refused, but my lust turned off my head in making such a decision. My teammates cornered me in the locker room after the game. Luke, when are you going to stop hanging out with the blimp and find a girl worthy of our quarterback? Chuck, if you talk about Aubrey like that again, I'll slap you. She's not dirigible, just a little warm. But I like her, and although we're not dating, she's my best friend. Fine, but you need a real girl who turns you on. We have to pop your cherry. I don't need your help with sex. Move away. Ted intervened to calm me down. Hey, Luke, sorry. It's just, well, Harper was telling my girlfriend that she really wanted to be with you. Harper may be gorgeous, but she likes to hang out with anyone who wears pants. This is not what I need. She's not really like that. She's cute and she likes you. Come to my party tomorrow night. She will be there. Just see if there is some chemistry between you. What could it harm? The guys were really mean when it came to my friend Aubrey. She didn't look like a dainty, skinny model, but she was just the way I liked her. She had a healthy, girl-next-door face that I knew would remain gorgeous well into middle age and beyond. We weren't actually dating, but we were always together. In truth, I thought she was exceptionally beautiful, both outside and inside. If I had my way, I would have wanted us to be each other's first lovers, but she had a moral core that I admired and I tried to emulate. We grew up in church together, and I wanted to be true to my beliefs. Unfortunately, those damn teenage hormones were destroying the weak defenses I had built around my chastity. Let's face it, I wanted sex. At the party, Harper searched for me like a heat-seeking missile zeroing in on its target. Luke, Ted said you'd be here. Hello, Harper. You look good. Appetizing enough to make you want to eat it. Well, I don't. Relax, Luke. I'm just messing with you. She wasn't joking with me. We played tonsil hockey for an hour, and not even half the night later, my sexual experience changed on many levels. I was completely overwhelmed with lust. Aubrey understood everything immediately. She seemed offended, but accepted my transition to the dark side. A few weeks later, she started dating Dennis, our team's center. Knowing that Aubrey would take his time, I teased them both about how, as a quarterback, I had my hands in Dennis' crotch more often than Aubrey. She wasn't amused, and Dennis told me to cool off. I apologized to both of them and felt quite awkward afterwards. The way they called me made me feel ashamed of my changed attitude, but after all, I was a stupid teenager. I started to distance myself from Aubrey and Dennis. Looking back, I realized that I lived in a darkness that made the light around them feel uncomfortable. I wanted to have fun, and being around them dampened my enjoyment. Harper and I dated and explored each other for the rest of the school year and the following summer. I liked our sexual relationship. She was hot and knew how to use her well-developed talents. She was also easy to talk to, and we found that we had many common interests and views. After months of sexual bliss, I began to fall in love with her. In the fall, Harper planned to attend Washington State University while I was heading to Indiana to attend Purdue on a football scholarship. No matter how much I fell in love, I knew that the long distance would be difficult for both of us. We agreed not to be exclusive and to get together whenever we were both home. My hormones and instincts ruled my life for the first 2 years of college. True to our word, Harper and I were home together. We never discussed what happened when we were apart, and that seemed wise of us. I found myself comparing every girl I dated to Harper, and none of them rated highly. I missed Harper more and more and couldn't wait to see her again. I started calling her more often and felt that she felt the same way as me. My love for her grew, despite the fact that thousands of miles separated us. A certain level of maturity and responsibility emerged around the third year. The values I had been taught as a child filled my mind, and I was tired of the emptiness that seemed to be part of my chaotic lifestyle. From that point on, I only had a close relationship with Harper, and I started thinking about how to propose. The summer before our senior year, I needed to understand what Harper thought about our relationship. Baby, can we talk about something? Of course, Luke. Are you okay? You look pretty serious. Well, it is. I thought a lot, and I think the first 2 years of college I was, well, a little wild with girls. I always loved you and knew that we would get back together, but I was horny, and the girls were so, sort of, available. Were you like this with guys? I, I slept with you a few times for fun, but I always wanted it to be with you. I mean, no one else could compare, you know? Yes, I know. You've dated guys, and that's okay. This is what we agreed on. But this year has become different for me. I started to feel like I was cheating, and I realized that I only wanted to be with you. I wanted you to know that I haven't kissed a girl since we were together last summer. I hope maybe you could tell me that you feel the same. I love only you, Luke. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. It would be, I mean, would you marry me? Harper jumped onto my lap and jumped up and down, screaming, yes, yes, yes. We made love, and then we lay next to each other and began to share our dreams of our life together. She suddenly sat up with a worried expression on her face. You don't want to get married now, before our senior year, do you? No. Maybe a few months after we finish. Harper seemed relieved by this. I assumed she thought it would be practical, but it still bothered me a little. I also realized that I never actually received an answer regarding her recent fidelity, but she waved some kind of magic wand that made me believe that she was only faithful to me. It was a minor thorn in my mind at the time, but it haunted me later. After graduating from university, Harper took a job at a real estate firm, while I began my career in personal wealth financial planning. We got married in December of that year, and I thought I was happy. I was determined to return to the faith I had as a child, but it became obvious that Harper was not interested in spiritual matters. I was starting to realize that by living with her, you get a lot more information about who she really is. I didn't have to wait too long for the first warning sign after marriage. Harper talked me into cutting short our honeymoon in California wine country so we could attend a New Year's party with a lot of her friends, most of whom she knew from college. I barely saw my bride the entire evening. The party took place in the dance hall. We all chipped in to rent it. Harper flitted around the room, chatting with everyone. Sometimes I had no idea where she was. Several of her friends kept me busy, as if this was their task for the evening. I had to carry the unconscious Harper to the car and into our apartment. The next day, she was very attentive and apologetic about her behavior at the party, so I let it slide. But over the course of the year, things accumulated in my mind that I could not come to terms with. She had a lot of evening meetings, was not very open about the details of her work and life, and at times it seemed to me that friends were high on her list of priorities. How could I have been married for less than a year and still feel so alone? A year has passed, and it's time for another New Year's party in the same place. I didn't really want to go, but I also felt obligated to see what Harper did when she was alone with her friends. I figured I'd have a better chance of seeing the real Harper if she thought I wasn't there, so I took time off at the last minute, citing an upset stomach. Harper seemed relieved that I was home. I let the party go on for a few hours and then showed up around 10. I tried to stay away from prying eyes as soon as I arrived. It didn't take me long to see Harper across the room. There was a group of 6 guys standing around, and they all took turns giving her deep, passionate kisses. Then I saw her drag one of them by the hand into the corridor that led to small training rooms for dance classes. The others stood back, high-fiving each other, and looked like they were in a waiting line. I stood there for a moment, wondering what to do, and decided that I should see what would happen. I walked across the room, but it didn't escape the notice of Harper's friend, Amy. "Luke, Harper said you were homesick." "Out of the way, Amy." "Luke, please don't go there." I grabbed her hands and looked straight into her eyes. "Why? What will I see?" Amy began to tremble with fear. She could see the anger building inside me, and I did nothing to hide it. "Luke, you won't like this. Please do not. She really loves you." I pushed her aside and followed my wife. There, in the training room, my wife kissed and began to undress with a guy whom she willingly pulled on top of her. I wanted to rush in and pretend to be Chuck Norris. Instead, remaining undetected, I took a few pictures with my phone and headed home. Once in the apartment, I printed out one of the photographs and left it on the table along with my wedding ring. I packed enough clothes for the week and headed to the Holiday Inn. It was strange. I sat in the room feeling like I needed to cry or vent my anger. Instead, it felt like I finally had answers to all the questions that were running through my head. I kept her in the dark for a few days until I found time to find a small, furnished apartment and then called to set up a meeting so we could talk. "Luke, where the hell have you been? How could you just leave like that? I'll come by in the evening to talk." "Luke, please. I'm sorry for what you saw. It was." "Shut up, Harper. We'll talk in the evening. I'll be there at 7. I hung up the phone and searched for some emotion to latch on to. The emptiness, of course, rushed inside. A little anger and a healthy dose of bruised pride welled up in me too, but I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. Of course, I spent a little over a year on it. Somehow, my discovery of the real Harper matched my growing suspicions that our relationship had never truly been right. My thoughts went back to a conversation my father and I had many years ago. We were talking about love and relationships, and I asked how I would know when I had found the right woman. His words were now ringing in my ears. "It's different for everyone, but when you kiss her, you might feel weak in the knees, or maybe you'll feel a glow like you're filled with electricity. Maybe it manifests itself in some other way. It doesn't matter. You will know." I couldn't remember feeling this way with Harper. Of course, our kisses were filled with heat, but now I realized that it was purely physical attraction. I never felt the real connection that my father talked about. So, to my surprise, it was. Okay, I was disappointed with her behavior, but I coped just fine. I entered the apartment at 7 o'clock without knocking. Harper sat at the kitchen table, staring at the damn photo and my ring. Calmly and clearly resigned to the inevitable, she greeted me with words that summed it all up. "It's over between us, isn't it?" I sat down opposite her. "Yes. You're not going to scream or rant or anything." "Is it necessary?" "That's what I would do. I think I've finally seen the real you, Harper. And the truth is, we're not right for each other. What's even more telling, at least to me, is that I don't think I've ever truly loved you the way people in a marriage should love each other." "Well, I don't think you loved me that much. Let's break up, be civil, and move on." "Fine." I was surprised she wasn't more emotional. She simply shrugged, which told me clearly what she was thinking, even more convincingly than the next words. "I guess I wasn't really ready for marriage. I wanted this. You're the guy I wanted to settle down with, and I wanted to be your girlfriend and wife. I really tried. You are right. It's just not for me." Again in the bar. Linda seemed deep in thought as I finished my story about Harper. "Wow, I think you dodged a bullet when you realized the truth so early in your marriage." "I didn't realize my marriage was a lie for 14 years. Don't take this the wrong way, because you really are a beautiful woman, but I can see the pain on your face when you talk about it. I think no matter how long it takes, finding out the truth can hurt like hell, but at least you can move forward maybe a little wiser." Leaning my elbow on the counter, I propped my head on my hand and looked into her eyes. "Something tells me I need to hear your story. I'm getting better, but yes, I will share my story. But we have only gone through one deception in your story so far, and I need to hear it all." Well, finishing the first story, the rest is better than it started. so maybe this will cheer you up a little." Linda looked away for a moment and seemed to be deep in thought. "Are you still dating Harper?" "On occasion. Shortly after our divorce, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. This forced her to grow up quickly. She handles herself well and ends up marrying a nice guy. They seem to fit together well. You're not the kind of guy who likes karma to bite his ex in the ass, are you?" "No, absolutely. Getting sick with something like multiple sclerosis is something I wouldn't wish on anyone, and I still have some good feelings for Harper. We actually parted on good terms. So who is number two?" I had to grin. Number two, an apt description of how things went with Zoe. Zoe. I met Zoe at a party thrown in honor of my old friends, Aubrey and Dennis. They married while still in college, and after graduation, Dennis got a job at a large manufacturing company. At a young age, he was promoted to vice president of finance, and they had to move to Dallas. All their friends gathered in the Hyatt ballroom to wish them luck on their move. I was talking to a friend when the room seemed to light up as Zoe walked in, waltzing in with an air of charm and grace. In a word, she was stunning. I later learned that her photo had been on the cover of Maxim magazine about a year earlier. Every man, including me, had to wipe away the drool. Most of the men there were married and had their wives with them. And then the funniest thing happened. The wisest general in the army could not have organized a faster or more effective defense than the maneuver that the wives immediately undertook. Almost every man has been physically drawn into a serious conversation with his wife. I was one of 3 remaining single men, and Zoe quickly cast her hungry gaze in my direction. I watched as she deliberately approached me and immediately became afraid that my arousal would soon become obvious. "Hello, I'm Zoe. Is it just me, or have about 20 women just demonstrated their claims on their men? I don't think it was a figment of your imagination. By the way, my name is Luke." She shook my hand, and her touch sent shivers down my spine. "Zoe, nice to meet you, Luke. I think the ladies must think I'm a threat. It's not like anyone is protecting you with a ball and chain." "No, my chain broke a few months ago. And yes, you are a threat. You must know how great you are." "Thank you, but you are good yourself." I felt warm from a strong bout of blushing as I searched for an appropriate answer. "Well, maybe we can spend some time admiring each other." Oh man, her laugh was amazing. "I like you, Luke. You are funny. So maybe we should just hang out and get to know each other better." And damn it, we did it. She was bright and charming. We talked with great ease, and I was hooked. She seemed to like me too. The party was ending, and Zoe and I made a date for the next evening. She had to leave a little early, which gave me time to pay attention to Aubrey and Dennis. Aubrey was still the healthy, beautiful girl I knew in high school. She wasn't skinny, but to me she was still perfect. When I approached, she greeted me with a slightly frowning look. "Hello, Casanova. Zoe got you hooked. We kind of hit it off." "Why do you ask?" "Be careful. You know Dennis, and I care about you very much, and we don't want you to get hurt again. She seems harmless, and I really like her." "Luke, I love you, my friend. Open your eyes. You're on your second run." I was a little upset by Aubrey's reaction. How could she assume that I didn't know what I was doing? "I'll be okay. I mean, we just met. I'm not going to the altar yet." "Fine. I mean, she's smart and successful, so she has a lot ahead of her. Just promise to keep your eyes open. Please take care of your heart. You have a good heart and are a great guy. You need to find a woman who is worthy of you." I wanted to say this, but I couldn't. I wanted to say, "There was such a woman, but I let you go." Zoe and I wasted no time. We seemed to be of one mind on all the major issues of life. We soon became close and got married 6 months after we met. I made it clear that fidelity was high on my list of priorities, and she gave me every reason to believe that she felt the same. She seemed to share the same commitment to faith as I did, so I assumed we had what we needed to get through life. She had a small modeling agency and focused on having a good work-life balance. We got married without much fanfare and began our life together with high hopes for the future. Our family life was warm and fulfilling, and our sex life was fantastic. Zoe never gave me any reason to doubt her commitment to monogamy in our marriage. After 3 years of marital bliss, we began to discuss the possibility of having children. She seemed excited about the prospect, but I noticed that she never took the steps necessary to get pregnant, such as going off the pill, even though she agreed in principle. Despite this, I was flying through the air and feeling safe thanks to Zoe coming into my life. It seems that just when you think that everything is fine in the world and your life's on the right path, life decides to throw you to the mercy of fate. It was a dark and rainy Monday when I faced one of the worst days of my life. Aubrey called me at the office early this morning. She rarely called me at work, and from her voice, I knew something was wrong. Aubrey, what's going on? I don't want you to worry, but wanted you to know. Dennis has leukemia. Oh my God, did you just find out? Just from the doctor. He said they can do a lot these days. I hope he's right. Are you okay? She sighed, and I heard her pull herself together. Yes. I mean, the doctor seemed optimistic. Of course, this is an unexpected shock. He's been a little tired lately, but we didn't think about it. But you know Dennis, he pretends to be cheerful, but I see right through him. Keep us in your thoughts, okay? She tried to keep her voice encouraging, but I knew my friend too well. She was hiding intense fear and a strong wave of depression. I wanted to be there to hug both my friends, but it couldn't happen. We usually talked on the phone about once a month, and from that point on, I decided to increase that to at least weekly. She was thousands of miles away, but my friend needed me. Our call was interrupted, and I became depressed. I felt like I was drowning in an ocean of anxiety as I looked out of my office window at the gloomy, rainy landscape. I was just digesting this news when another good friend, my personal assistant Melanie, quietly entered the office and closed the door. Her face was flushed and her eyes were red as if she had been crying, and from the look of her, I assumed she had heard about Dennis and Aubrey. I was wrong. Luke, you know that I love you and would never want to hurt you, right? Mel, you're scaring me. What's the matter? I've been worried about this all weekend, but you should know. My husband and I had dinner and went dancing to celebrate our anniversary on Saturday. We went to a jazz club downtown, and she started crying. My mind was racing, trying to guess what she was going to tell me. And then it dawned on me. Zoe was supposed to be at a partners meeting on Saturday in Portland, and she stayed there overnight. What, Mel? Your wife was there with some guy, and I took some pictures. Oh God, I'm sorry, Luke. The photos were pretty clear. Caresses under the table, grinding on the dance floor, and passionate kisses were clearly captured. My tears flowed like Snoqualmie Falls. First Dennis and Aubrey's terrible news rocked my emotions, and now Zoe has betrayed me. Melanie showered me with hugs and apologies. I managed to calm down and thank her for telling me, and I apologized for Zoe ruining their weekend. Mel forwarded the photos, and I printed out the more visual ones to use that evening. I recognized the guy as one of the models Zoe managed. On the way home, I stopped at a pub for a drink to build up my courage before the confrontation. Kaylee was great at helping me calm down. A couple of my friends from my football days were there too. I didn't know it at the time, but the two of them had hatched a plan to teach Zoe's lover a lesson. I later learned that they tracked him down and beat him to a pulp. I kind of wished they wouldn't do it, and yet I felt so guilty that I was secretly happy about it. The wait for Zoe to return home seemed to last forever. My stomach churned. My mind kept switching between anger, hatred, regret, thoughts of forgiveness, and pain. When she finally fluttered in, I was sitting at the dining table with my exhibits ready for presentation. She entered the room so cheerful and sweet. Hi, baby. She came to kiss me, but I pushed her away. Sit down. Now. She sat down so quickly that she almost missed the chair. Luke, why are you talking to me like that? I don't know. One by one, I laid out the photographs on the table. How should I talk to you? She looked and immediately turned pale. Her tears flowed like a river and would have melted me the day before. Now they just pissed me off. So what part of loyalty did you not understand? Luke, What? What are you going to say? Is it just sex? This mean nothing. Do you love only me? What can you even say that will allow you to wriggle out? Please don't hate me. Wait a few days and cool down. I never. What never? Never do this again. How often have you done this with this guy? What about the other guys? I can't believe you betrayed me like this, especially knowing how Harper cheated on me. You just don't understand a woman like me. I don't understand. My rage boiled over. I grabbed her by the neck, brought my face a few inches closer to mine, and screamed at the top of my lungs. I completely understand who you are. I would call you a pig, but that's an insult to pigs. You fooled me, didn't you? I'm sure you and your boy enjoyed talking about me while he was stealing you from me. I pushed her away roughly because I was afraid of what I might do. I saw the fear in her eyes, and it made me happy and scared at the same time. I couldn't look her in the face anymore, so I turned my back to her to gather my strength and speak more calmly. I'll probably never understand a liar or a deceiver. You really fooled me. You betrayed me and everything I thought we had. Crap, I didn't think it could hurt me this much, but congratulations, you managed to destroy me. I think I understand exactly who you are, and I definitely know that I can never trust you again. I paced back and forth, trying to calm my anger, while she cried quietly. I want you to get out of this house tonight. My lawyer is now preparing documents for divorce. The prenuptial agreement came into effect as soon as you managed to screw up. You have half an hour to leave, and we will contact you via SMS when you pick up the rest of your things. I began to break down, and she was in deep agony from sobs. I did not care. Luke, please, I love only you. Please do not. I stopped, holding Zoe's back against me, and looked down at the floor. Love? Well, I don't love you anymore. I look at you and all I see is ugliness, and I want absolutely nothing. And don't you dare say that you love me. Love doesn't do what you did to me. You only love yourself. Now get out of here before I get back, and tell your boyfriend to run away. Fast and far. Going back to the bar. Linda was careful when she made her observation. Your reaction was stronger than I could have imagined. Even though we just met, I got the impression that you are a softer and more delicate guy. Luke is both kind and gentle, Kaylee added, but betrayal can unleash the beast from anyone. Yes, I admit I was probably a little crazy, but Linda, you've obviously been the victim of a traitor, so maybe you can understand. With Harper, I knew we were never right for each other. I thought with all my heart that Zoe was the one, and she ripped my heart out. I said all this to vent and probably hurt her as much as possible without resorting to physical pain. But what I said was true. Maybe she'll learn a lesson from this. Maybe not. How did everything go after that? Have you ever been able to reach some kind of closure or part amicably? I calmed down and eventually we talked. If she had just made a mistake, I think I would have tried to save our marriage. I mean, I'm not perfect, so I would hope for forgiveness if we switched roles. But it was an affair that started before Zoe and I got married, and she couldn't even commit to ending it. So we parted, but not on the most friendly terms. Surprisingly, Zoe turned out to be amenable and resigned herself to the divorce in the form in which I proposed. She moved her business to New York, and I haven't seen or heard from her since. What happened to her lover? You said he was badly beaten. Did this come back to haunt you? He had a lot of bruises and was in pain for a while, but he recovered. What upset him the most was the scar above his eye, which was threatening his modeling career, but even that cleared up. Oddly enough, Zoe was my alibi, since the attack happened 45 miles away at the same time I ran into Zoe. I admit that my first reaction was a feeling that justice had been done, but that quickly faded. Of course, he was a piece of crap, but I didn't want that to happen, and I never caused it to happen. So, that's two. It sounds like you chose the same type of woman and expect different results. I smiled sadly. Just like my friends. They all tried to tell me the same thing, but I think I'm a slow learner since I went down the same path after Zoe. Are you kidding? No, I would like to. As sad as it is, I think you'll enjoy hearing about how I found out about Samantha's cheating. Samantha. My divorce was finalized in October 2016. I decided to fly to Dallas to see Aubrey and Dennis and join them for Thanksgiving. As usual, air travel was rough that week and delays kept me stuck in SeaTac for several hours. I was concentrating on my beer when a pretty blonde plopped down in the seat across from me, having an intense conversation on the phone. Look, I can't control what the hell the airlines do. I can't walk up to the gate and demand that we take off because you demand that I arrive on time. This is postponed. I'll be there later than expected. She had adorable dimples that danced when she spoke, and I couldn't help but laugh quietly. She hung up the call without waiting for a response from the other end and muttered a few choice words under her breath. Then, looking at me, she realized that I could not help but hear her conversation and decided that I was laughing at her. Are you laughing at me, idiot? Oh God, no. I'm sorry it seemed like that. I didn't want to eavesdrop. Then what are you laughing at? I was caught and decided that honesty was best. I hope this doesn't make you angry, but, well, I noticed those amazing, beautiful dimples that appear on your face when you argue with someone. Luckily, she laughed and blushed, trying to hide her dimples. Sorry. My mother can drive me crazy when she gets like that. She thinks the world revolves around her schedule, and it's my fault that I arrive late. Mothers are like that. Are you okay? Oh yeah, I love Mom. But it's already annoying enough to deal with air travel, and I didn't need her displeasure right now. Your phone is ringing. That's her. Trust me, I'm sparing her feelings by not responding. I'm not in a good mood and can't be held responsible for losing my temper. Can I buy you a drink to help you adjust your attitude? Drink from a stranger. She put on a little girl look with a shy smile and dimples on display. I'm not that kind of girl. Well, I'm Luke. And you? She giggled, smiled, and blurted out in mock irritation. I'm Samantha, or Sam to my friends. Do you see? Now we are no strangers to each other. What would you like to drink, Sam? We chatted for almost 2 hours before my flight was finally announced. I was captivated by her wit and charm. She didn't have the cover girl beauty of Harper or Zoe, but she was still extremely attractive. Her smile was a little crooked, like Drew Barrymore's, and combined with those wonderful dimples, I found her sexy as hell. I was almost sorry to hear the announcement from the airline. Damn it. Sam, they're starting to board my flight. I really enjoyed chatting with you. Do you live here in the Seattle area? Yes, I live in Redmond. I'm almost next door in Kirkland. Can I be brave and ask if you are in a relationship? Because I would love to treat you to dinner and get to know you better. My opinion of how cute she was increased even more when she wrinkled her nose. Wow, you're moving fast. But you're kind of nice, so, okay, give me your phone. Here, okay? My contact information is under the name Sam, and you can call me anytime after I get back next Wednesday. Thank you. I have to say that I never thought I would be so happy after having to sit and wait for a flight. She was captivatingly sexy when she giggled. Me too. I might even be in a good enough mood to call my mom back. We hugged, and I felt like I was in heaven. She pulled away from the hug and looked into my eyes. Do you really like my dimples, or was that just a phrase? Believe me, I really, really like them. Luke? Yes. Please don't turn into some weirdo. I don't want you to have to beat around the bush. I was glad that she was laughing. Don't worry. I'm so normal that more than anything else, I'm afraid of boring you. The flight was great because I was in a state of complete lust with the hope of love on the horizon. Chemistry seemed more than right. In Dallas, Dennis met me at the airport, and I was surprised at how good he looked. On the way to their house, he told me the good news that he was in remission. He is one of the truly good guys on this earth, and I couldn't be happier or relieved to hear that he's doing well. Dennis and Aubrey had 3 children, and their home seemed like the place I had always dreamed of for myself. Love was everywhere. Aubrey prepared a fantastic feast and took the time to scold me for choosing self-centered women as wives instead of finding a girl with good character. In the back of my mind, I wondered what category Sam would fall into if we ended up in a relationship. I called Sam on Thursday of that week when we both returned home. I was expecting a quick conversation to plan a date, but I ended up feeling like a teenager when our conversation turned into a 2.5 hour marathon. By the time our conversation ended, my head was in the clouds. I felt a wide smile spread across my face and enjoyed the moment. Then I realized that I wanted her. I couldn't wait for our date. I was so nervous that I had to fight the urge to come too early. Her apartment was only 3 miles from my house, and I expected to spend a lot of time driving along this route in the coming months. Our first date was at one of my favorite places, Matt's Bar and Grill at the Oyster House. We talked casually, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. I fell much faster than I wanted to, but I was clearly falling. The longer we talked, the more beautiful she seemed. Our conversation turned to light kisses during dessert. We were barely out the door when she pulled me into a sexy, deliciously wet, tonsillitis-tingling kiss. "Luke, you have no idea how much I want you to come see me for a while." "Oh, I think I know how much, but I want to take my time a little." "This is fine." "Yes, I think. You're still going through your marriage, so there's no rush." "Thanks for understanding." She raised an eyebrow and smiled at me. I was going to say something like, "That thing poking me in the stomach doesn't look small at all," but that wouldn't be the right thing to say if we weren't in a hurry, would it? I giggled to hide how nervous I suddenly felt. "No, if you say something like that, I will definitely change my timeline." "Luke, I've been passionate about you from the moment you told me your name at the airport, but let's let things unfold at a calm pace." "It suits me." The cold shower worked for a few weeks, but by Christmas we realized we were in love with each other and gave in to our passion. I've never run a marathon, but being close to Sam was the most intense workout I've had since football practice at Purdue. I wanted to make sure I could keep up with her, so getting into better shape became my top New Year's resolution. Sam moved into my house just in time for Valentine's Day. There was no doubt that we were exceptional and moving quickly to achieve our goals. That summer, we planned to have a small, intimate wedding. Sam played volleyball competitively and was very active in various sporting activities. Hiking, kayaking, biking, and jogging consumed our weekends when we weren't busy with the Olympics in the bedroom. She was actively working out at the local gym, and I decided to join too. We were doing a workout challenge, so I bought us both Fitbits and an iPad app that allowed us to track our fitness progress as individuals and as a couple. I was getting into the best shape of my life. The wedding was scheduled for the first Saturday in August. Each of us invited our closest relatives and a few friends. Melanie, my personal assistant, came with her husband. Aubrey and Dennis flew in to attend the ceremony. I felt like I had done it right this time and couldn't wait for Sam to become Mrs. Riley. The wedding was informal, with only 37 invited guests, so Sam did not feel stressed. Sister Sam was the bridesmaid, and she didn't worry about the other attendants. We asked to hold the ceremony right in the reception hall, which allowed us to avoid problems with transportation and wasting time. I stood next to the priest and watched as my bride walked towards me. Before the procession began, I looked around at the guests. Melanie was sitting a few rows back and beaming at me, but I didn't see Aubrey or Dennis. I hoped they didn't have any problems flying. We said yes, kissed, and started the party. The longer the appointment went on, the more worried I became about not seeing Aubrey or Dennis. About 2 hours after I started, I felt my phone ring with an incoming message. Aubrey wrote, "Luke, I'm sorry we missed your special day. I didn't want you to worry or ruin your holiday, but Dennis' cancer has returned. Yesterday, he was admitted to the hospital. Don't worry. Everything is fine with us, but I hate myself for not being there for you. Call me when you get back from your honeymoon." I told Sam, and she agreed that I needed to call Aubrey immediately. I did so, and she tried to convince me that everything would be fine, but we knew each other too well. Dennis was in trouble, and she wasn't doing a very good job of hiding how scared she was. Sam and I honeymooned in Hawaii, and I tried my best not to dwell on the problems Dennis and Aubrey were having. All things considered, it was a great trip, and I was impressed with Sam's understanding and attention to my emotional needs in addition to her considerable skill in meeting my physical needs. A few weeks later, in mid-September, Sam and I flew to Dallas for a long weekend to visit Dennis and Aubrey. I walked in and their son and two daughters almost jumped on me with hugs, greeting their Uncle Luke. What really knocked the wind out of me was seeing Dennis. The big, strapping center on my high school football team was thin and frail. His complexion was gray, and he had the look of death looming over him. I tried not to look shocked and tried my best to treat my friend the same way I always did. After dinner, Sam helped Aubrey wash the dishes, and Dennis took me aside to his den. "Luke, you probably realize that I can't handle this." "Come on, Dennis. You are a fighter. Life is a fight that we all lose eventually, my friend. It suits me. I'm more worried about Aubrey and the kids. They'll be fine financially, I've taken care of that, but promise me you'll look after them, okay? I'm guessing they'll stay here in Dallas, but the kids will need contact with their godfather, Uncle Luke, and Aubrey will need her best friend. You didn't have to ask, but I promise. You know I love you, man, isn't it? I know. These feelings are mutual. You're a good person, Luke, and a good friend." I couldn't stop my lips from trembling. I thought guys weren't supposed to cry. Can silence be warm and sad at the same time? This went on for a few moments until Dennis changed the subject. "By the way, Sam seems amazing. I hope you guys have a long, happy life together." 2 weeks later, Dennis was gone. The service and funeral took place in Washington, where their families lived. Aubrey and the children stayed with us for several weeks as we tried to help them through this difficult process. Again, Sam was great and a true partner during a difficult time. Several months passed before Sam approached me with an idea. "Do you know Hugh, the owner of the gym downstairs? He is about to retire and asked if we would be interested in purchasing the hall." "Really? What do you want to do?" "My career at Microsoft is good, but the gym is more like my dream. This is something I would love to do." "Well, I don't want to change my career. I have proven myself too well and made good money in the market. Why don't you do it yourself?" "One, I think I could, but I don't have that kind of money. Maybe I can help." "What does Hugh want?" "I have enough money to pay what he wants for the business, but he also wants to sell me the building. I don't have this part 2 million, and I don't think I could collect it. I was considering forming an LLC for the purpose of investing in real estate as my portfolio had grown significantly and therefore gave me plenty of freedom to make other investments. We moved forward with my LLC and named it Riley Investments. Sam set up a separate LLC in her name for the gym, after which Riley Investments opened a line of credit for her to make some improvements and cover her variable operating costs for the first few years of operation. Our accountant and lawyer drafted the agreements, and our new businesses launched successfully. That night, when all the paperwork was done, I was showered with kisses, and we celebrated vigorously in the sheets all weekend. Microsoft asked Sam to remain available as a consultant at a substantial hourly rate. We talked about the pros and cons, but we both knew that the extra income would really improve her financial situation. It didn't take long to realize that the new business would be a success. Owning a business and working at Microsoft, which included occasional travel, put a lot of pressure on Sam. She had energy, but I had to work part-time at the gym if she needed to leave town. Nevertheless, we were happy and even began to make plans to have children. Sam thought it might work if she ended up giving up her job at Microsoft. Right after our first anniversary, Sam had to travel to Atlanta for 3 days to support some software development. As usual, we talked every evening and shared details of our days. On the second day, she called just after 3 p.m. West Coast time or 6 p.m. Atlanta time. "Hey, Sam, how was your day?" "Amazing. We have done a lot, but there is still much to be done. I can't talk for long because some of the team are getting ready to continue their work over dinner. Can I make it up to you tomorrow?" "Certainly. I'm heading to the gym tonight to check on how things are going, so I might as well go see how the staff is holding up." "Sounds good. I love you, baby." "I love you too." I went to the gym and decided to work out before wasting time checking everything in the office. I was satisfied that everything was going well and left to close the store at 9. I was tempted to call Sam, but it was already past midnight in her time zone, and I was sure she was having a rough day. I took a shower and wanted to spend some time playing on my iPad. The Fitbit app caught my attention, and I decided to see what my progress looked like. I opened the app and felt the blood drain from my head. My stomach churned as I saw evidence that my life was falling apart. Sam was practicing. Her Fitbit was active. At almost 1 a.m. her time, why would she exercise? The more I looked, the more I recognized the pattern, and I immediately knew what she was doing. I should have called her. On the first try, her cell phone rang until it went to voicemail. She had a special ringtone from me, so she must have known who was calling. I tried several times, but it still kept going to voicemail. Finally, on the fifth try, Sam answered. "Baby, is everything okay?" "No, it's not okay." "Are you injured or in the hospital or something?" "Hurt?" "Yes, I'm seriously injured." "Oh no, what's happened?" "What's his name?" "What? Who? What are you talking about?" "The guy you're cheating on me with." "What's his name?" "What are you talking about?" "I don't." "Tell me, Sam." "Why?" "Luke, How? Are you here? Are you going to answer my question?" "Oh, damn. How did you know?" "Next time you have sex with someone other than your husband, take off your damn Fitbit." I disconnected the call, turned off my phone, and threw it across the room. It was impossible to sleep. I went for a walk to try to cool down, and instead walked for miles, crying my eyes out. This couldn't happen. Not again. Why can't my wives be faithful? I returned home with several planned tasks that needed to be completed. We kept our finances separate, but we had several joint accounts and credit cards to cover household expenses. I went to the computer and transferred all the accounts to one of my own and closed the ones I could find online. Late that evening, I sent an email to my law firm asking for a divorce attorney to be assigned as soon as possible. The next day, I left work to get my things in order. I had divorce papers and a prenuptial agreement ready. I met with my accountant and lawyer to begin the process of returning Sam's gym loan, since there was a clause in the loan documents that allowed me to request a full refund with 60 days' notice. How could I be such an idiot? How did she manage to fool me? Every fiber of my being hacked, and I wanted her to feel that pain and more. The vengeful fool in me wanted to destroy her. I hadn't spoken to Sam since the incident, so I didn't know what her plans were for returning home. It didn't help that after throwing away my phone, I had to buy a new one. I immediately blocked Sam's number. I needed a friend, so I called Aubrey. She calmed me down and begged me to be a little less vindictive. She was my conscience when I didn't want her to be, but I promised her I'd try. I thought about stopping by the pub, but if Sam stuck to her original travel schedule, she should be back soon. I wanted to get this fight over with and hoped that I would get home before she did. I was not lucky. I walked in to see Sam sobbing. She ran up and tried to hug me, but I pushed her away. "Don't touch me, Sam." "Oh, please, oh God, I'm sorry. Please, please forgive me." "Forgive? This won't happen." "Don't leave me, please. I do not want to lose you." "Lose? No. You threw us out." "Luke, please, I was stupid. I thought." "Did you think so? About what? How can you get away with this? Or maybe I wouldn't mind. Or did your brain tell you that it won't matter if you break our vows, or that you can handle the consequences, or that you can disrespect me as long as you sleep around and it won't change anything? Or what about the thought of risking killing my love for you and ripping out my heart? You didn't think so. Or maybe you thought there was a guy with more equipment or a better lover out there for you. Was that all?" "No, no. Then what stupid thought came into your head? Come on, give me your excuse." "Okay, that was unjustified. It was just stupid sex for fun." "Repeat. You must be kidding me. How often do you have sex for fun, huh? Do you have sex with guys at the gym? Riding trains in the ladies' room? I can't understand how you could even give that as a reason." I just thought. "Well, here you are again trying to tell me that you've thought of everything." If your libido was the problem, then I was just a phone call away from having a little phone sex. If you can't go without it for 2 or 3 days, you're out of control. Please, Luke, help us overcome this. Let me sum it up for you, darling. You allow another man, whom you have not yet named, to get close to you, although this belongs only to you and me. Don't lie to me that this is your body with which you can do whatever you want. It's yours and mine. Leave everyone else behind until death do us part. Do you remember this? Well, death. Yes. Our marriage died as soon as he got you into bed. She let out a deeper scream than I've ever heard from a human. I wanted to enjoy her pain, but it was killing me too. Pull yourself together, shut up, and listen. The divorce papers will be served in the next few days. No, no, please don't get divorced. Help me do this. Listen, damn it. The terms of the prenuptial agreement related to infidelity remain in effect. You'll get some. I am also applying for loan repayment. The main balance is just over $350,000. You will have 60 days to pay, or the gym will be lost. No, Luke, you will destroy me. I said shut up and listen. I won't demand a refund if you sign a divorce. Fight this, and then I will do everything. I don't care about money or the gym. I just want you. Please, let's sort this out. No, Sam. You knew my painful story with cheating wives. You swore you wouldn't do this to me, and yet a year later you did exactly that. I will never trust you again, especially since you showed so little respect for me when you knew what it would do to me. Damn it, Luke. I made a big mistake. I'm not perfect, but neither are you. Are you saying that you never wanted to be with another woman? I fought my temper to stay calm. I bit my lips so hard I could taste blood. Yes, I'm not perfect. We all have fantasies. The difference is that you acted on it. I've never done this. Please, stop begging. This makes me sick. But we were planning on having children. What? Do you really think that I would want my children to have a mother who thinks the way you obviously think? I want kind, respectable, moral, loving children who will make this world a better place. I don't want their lives to be influenced by anyone who could do what you did. She started wailing again, and I really didn't want to hear it. I left and told her I'd be back in a day or two after we'd both calmed down. It was hard to leave the heartbroken woman I loved sobbing uncontrollably on the floor. At first I hoped that she felt as destroyed as I did, but I felt terrible guilt for leaving her. I needed to get out of there before I broke down. I didn't want her to see it. After a few days, I got cold feet. We actually talked, and I agreed to see a psychologist to see if we could salvage something. I didn't want to be a thrice loser, and I really cared about her. I just didn't know if I could ever get back that feeling of having her as my life partner. After 6 weeks of seeing the counselor, we returned home from our last session, and Sam was uncharacteristically quiet. I looked at her several times and saw that tears were quietly flowing down her cheeks. Like a lot of guys, I'm not particularly observant, but I knew things were changing. We walked in silently, and Sam broke the silence. Can we sit down and talk? I need to tell you a story. Sure, baby. I assumed she had decided to sit next to me on the couch to avoid eye contact. Sam took a deep breath and, trying to maintain her composure, began her story. When I was a child, my father and I were very close. I was his princess, and he was my hero, just like a father should be. My sister and I would always sit next to him on the couch while watching a movie or just relaxing as a family after dinner. Even during my teenage rebellious years, my dad and I were close. When I was 16, I made a vow of purity to him in our church that I would save myself for marriage. I didn't make this promise lightly, but I meant every word. Our church held similar events when I was a child. Yes, it was in fashion then. Anyway, I started dating a guy from my Sunday school class. We dated for about a year, and he continued to pester me, demanding intimacy. On my 18th birthday, I gave in and Pandora's box was opened. I couldn't get enough. I know you. Yes. Anyway, one night the rest of the family had to go to a banquet, leaving my boyfriend and I home alone. Of course, we were naked before the family car even pulled out of the driveway. After about 15 minutes, we got down to business. I'm in the middle of sex, I looked up and saw my father at the door, looking intently at us. He had diabetes and forgot his insulin, so he had to go back for it. His lips twitched as if he was about to say something, but instead he simply walked away. I wanted to chase him, even though I had no idea what I was going to say. Before he walked out the door, he turned to me. There were tears in his eyes, and I felt as if I had been struck by lightning. I couldn't move. Then he calmly said, "Now you are a grown woman and can make your own choices." And he left. Did he take it quite calmly? No, not at all. I caused him terrible pain. But what broke my heart was the look in his eyes then, and every day after that until he died. Before that, whenever he looked at me, there was love in his gaze that was impossible not to notice. I would have sworn his eyes sparkled. But from that night on, that look disappeared. When he looked at me, it seemed like all he could see was me having sex with a guy. A sight no father should see. There were tears and pain on Sam's face as she remembered her past. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized why she had brought herself to tell me about this terrible milestone from the past. I wanted to say something, but decided to let her finish. After that, we never pressed each other again. Oh, sure, we hugged when we said hello or when we parted, but the closeness between Daddy and Princess disappeared. We loved each other, but now we were father and daughter. She paused to collect her thoughts, and I hugged her, partly to comfort her, but mostly to let her know I understood. Luke, I see the same look that my father had when I look into your eyes. Every time you look at me, you see me having sex with some faceless guy, and you relive my betrayal. I feel like you desperately want this to end so we can go back to the way things were before I screwed up, but there's nothing you can do about it. I'm sorry. I don't want to punish you or anything like that. I still love you. I know this is true, but that look will always be with you. You can't trust me, no matter how much you want to. No matter what I do to make you believe that I will be faithful and never go astray again, deep down you will always fear the old saying, once a cheater, always a cheater. There's nothing any of us can do. I broke something we can't fix. What do you mean that we give up? I'm saying that you deserve someone you can trust with all your heart, and that I hope to find someone who will look at me the way you used to look at me before my stupidity. I'm saying we both need to move on separately. Back to the bar. Linda's emotions were at their limit. Tears streamed down her cheeks in a silent cry. I had my own shock just reliving this nightmare. After I left Sam at home, I came here to the pub. I walked in and Kaylee knew it just by looking at me. Kaylee wiped away tears as she talked about that evening. I noticed Luke come in and realized that he was about to lose his temper. I yelled at Pete to watch the bar and dragged Luke into the office. As soon as the door closed, he collapsed into my arms and burst into tears. Linda stared at her beer. I know this feeling. I know this pain. Kaylee calmed me down and talked to me for several hours. She finally made me laugh a little, and that's when she came up with my nickname. 3 betrayals to the wind. Yes, Kaylee said. I told him that he would get through this, and eventually he would be able to just throw the pain away and let the wind carry it away like he did 2 times before. He vowed that he would never put himself in that position again. I know him too well to believe that he would live alone, but I decided that he needed time. Linda put her hand on mine with a slight smile on her face. But now you look fine. In fact, you look more than normal. You give me hope. I just moved here to start over, and fate seems to have brought us together. I think so that you could share your story with me. You look happy now. I finally realized that I was making the same mistake over and over again. It started in high school when I decided that sex, image, and self-confidence were more important than shared values and respect. I had the perfect woman, and I let her slip through my fingers, and I never stopped looking for the wrong things. Have you thought about Aubrey? I closed my eyes and smiled. Oh yeah, it took a few months before I was ready to break up with Sam, but I knew the woman I needed was the one who had always been my best friend. So you went to Dallas and knocked her off her feet. Kaylee grinned and lightly smacked the counter. You would think he would do something so simple, but no. The brilliant Luke managed to ruin this too. Thank you, Kaylee's mom. Linda's face fell as if she were watching a tragedy unfold. You didn't follow Aubrey? Of course I did it. But I walked on eggshells with her because I didn't know if she was ready to move on after Dennis died. We kept in touch, and I tried to figure out when the right time would be to confess my love. Kaylee was my conversation partner. I was ready to tell Kaylee that I had tickets to fly out to see Aubrey. Of course, I planned to knock her down when I got there. So, what happened? Aubrey. 4 weeks earlier. I woke up after a sleepless night. In fact, I don't think you can wake up if you haven't slept at all, but I sat up with a new sense of purpose. I tossed and turned all night until I made a decision around 3 a.m. I was going to Dallas to tell Aubrey how I felt. If everything had gone according to plan, I would have returned home engaged to the woman I've wanted for as long as I can remember. Once I made this decision, I couldn't sleep because I had to fight my fears and give in to my anxiety. I was confused, but had to find out if she felt the same way as me. It was Friday morning, and I needed to get something done, so I went to the office and frantically did what I absolutely needed to do and managed to buy a plane ticket for the next day to get to Dallas. My assignments took longer than I had hoped, but I managed to finish by 4 p.m. and arrived at the pub to tell Kaylee my plans. Thrice deceived Luke, you're early today. I know, and I can't stay long, but I have to tell you that I finally decided to visit Aubrey. I have to tell her. Well, you don't. Listen, I need to run and get ready. I want to go to the jewelry store, so I'll definitely show up with a ring. Luke, listen. Kaylee, thank you for all your help. I could not. Luke, shut up and listen. I have to deliver these drinks, but if you pause for a minute and look away, I think you'll realize that you don't need to go to Dallas. What? What's happened? Look into the booth next to the restrooms. I'll be right back. I turned around, and my heart jumped in my chest, but just as quickly fell into the abyss. I saw enough of the profile to recognize Aubrey, and she was sitting with some guy, holding his hand across the table. They smiled at each other like two people united by a common love. The pain in my lower abdomen was unbearable. I quickly left the bar before I made a fool of myself and threw up in the bushes next to the front door. I was shocked. My brain was a complete mess, and I could not connect two simple thoughts together. I turned off my phone and drove around the city, feeling sorry for myself. I just kept driving, and my mind wandered off on tangents until my tears prevented my vision. I realized I had driven all the way to West Seattle, so I stopped at Alki Beach for a quick stop. My eyes lit up when I finally found a parking spot. I pulled over and just sat there and cried like a baby. Finally pulling myself together, I walked out onto the sidewalk along the beach and just sat there as the sun set. All sorts of thoughts filled my head, but I couldn't concentrate and felt completely lost. It must have been around midnight before I was able to drive home. I showered, got dressed, then drove to the office around 1 a.m., hoping to occupy my mind with something else. Besides the fact that it was the middle of the night, it was Saturday, and I knew I would be alone during the day, and that was exactly what I wanted at that moment. Apart from canceling my flight, I achieved nothing. I slept for a few hours on the couch in my office, and then just sat in my desk chair, looking out the window for answers that seemed out of reach. Should I let her go? Should I fight for her? I couldn't bring myself to decide which way was right and which way was wrong. Finally, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I went to the pub to see Kaylee. I realized that I left yesterday without talking to her after she warned me that Aubrey would be there with her boyfriend, so she was probably worried. I walked in and Kaylee saw me immediately, but the expression on her face was not at all what I expected to see. I expected her to be worried about me, but she was clearly angry. You damn fool. What the hell were you thinking running away from here? She put a mug of beer in front of me and, without letting me get a word in, decided to start making a new hole in my ass. You're an idiot. You made me worry, idiot. I need to finish serving drinks, but you stay in this damn place until I get back. Kaylee never swore, especially at me, So I decided that it was better for me to keep quiet. Why was she so upset? She continued to frown at me and shake her head, muttering terrible names at me. She texted someone, then took care of other customers, all the while giving me her dirty looks. It took Kaylee about 10 minutes to finish what she needed to do when she finally stood in front of me, eyes blazing like a demon trying to pierce my soul. She was clearly trying to control her irritation before speaking. I stood speechless. What a damn idiot. I thought you were heading to Aubrey's table, but instead, like a fool, you ran out the door. What the hell has gotten into you? What did your simple mind think you were doing? I couldn't. Shut up. You spent months. No, years telling me that Aubrey was the woman you loved, and then you ran away without talking to her. But you warned me. You showed me where they were. Did I warn you? About what? Damn it, Kaylee. You know, I love her more than life itself. I told you I was going to Dallas to finally tell her how I feel and ask her to marry me. In my mind, I had already dedicated my life to Aubrey, the woman I loved with everything in me. I've loved her since we were kids, and I would do anything to make her mine. When you warned me by showing me where she was sitting with her boyfriend, I realized that Aubrey probably had plans for this guy. Kaylee's face softened significantly, but then I noticed that she was not looking at me, but somewhere over my shoulder. Then I felt a gentle hand on my back and heard a gentle voice. Is this how you really feel about me, Luke? I've waited almost 20 years to hear these words from you. I spun around on the bar stool and Aubrey pulled me towards her. Our lips met and our tongues danced with a fury and passion that I had never experienced. I felt our hearts and minds merging into one life, bound by love. Our souls soared into a new dimension, as if we could leave our bodies and look down upon a heavenly blessed union. After 3 marriages and many other relationships, it only took one real kiss to make me understand what Dad was trying to tell me years ago. In my mind, this was confirmed without any doubt. Aubrey was the one. She was the true love I always wanted and needed. Back to the bar. Linda could not hide her tears. Did you almost miss out on the woman of your dreams again? Kaylee looked at me with a raised eyebrow. Exactly. Once he had recovered sufficiently from the rather erotic display of affection, I asked him what he was thinking about pulling such a stunt. I told you so. She was sitting with another guy. Kaylee seemed ready to scold me again, but I noticed a twinkle in her eye. Then I told him he was a damn fool for making assumptions without checking them. A smile spread across my face as I felt hands on my shoulders before she spoke. Kaylee, are you picking on Luke again? I turned to see my love and pulled her lips to mine. After a few seconds, Kaylee grinned and cleared her throat. You two want to rent a room? You are embarrassing all your customers. Aubrey smiled back at her. We'll have great use of the room in a few days, right, honey? Linda smiled, and her damp cheeks shone. You two are beautiful together. Oh, I'm so sorry. Linda, I'd like you to meet my fiancé. Hello, Linda. Luke's mannerisms are a little off. I'm Aubrey. Happy tears flowed from Linda's eyes. Aubrey, I'm so glad to meet you. Luke talked about you all evening. I have to tell you that if he ended up with anyone other than you, it would be the worst story I've ever heard. It's so great when high school sweethearts end up together. Luke, were you talking about me? You are the only topic that is important to me. She kissed me tenderly again. Oh, you're so cute. She raised her eyebrows and turned her attention to Linda. I wouldn't say that we were in love. We were best friends, that's for sure. I should have clarified. I think we both wanted to be lovers and struggled to find a way to stop being close friends. Aubrey grinned. In fact, Luke was a horny teenager, and I was too serious to become the object of his erotic experiments. Okay, she's right. Sometimes I wonder how things would have turned out if I had matured much earlier. I always loved her, but settled on 3 women who had beauty on the outside, but were empty on the inside and could never compare to the person she was and still is. Well, Aubrey, Luke was certainly right when he beamed about how cute you were. Oh, you are very kind. All that matters is that when I look into his eyes, I see how much his heart is intertwined with mine. I know that he loves me unconditionally, and I feel like the luckiest woman on earth." Linda grabbed Aubrey's hand and gave us both a worried look. "Wait, what happened to the other guy?" Aubrey looked at her with a knowing smile. "I didn't have another boyfriend. It was my cousin Paul. I stayed at their home for a few weeks while I looked for a home in the area. I was already planning to return and hoped that Luke, who lives here, would finally gain strength and ask me to marry him." Linda chuckled and wiped a few tears from her eyes. "You two are beautiful together." "Damn it, I was hoping I'd have a chance to fight Luke," she laughed, "but I can see it's a lost cause. I moved here from California for a fresh start and hope to find new friends and maybe a true soul mate. I hope there are a few more people my age like Luke." Kaylee smiled. "Linda, you have 3 new friends right here." Aubrey intervened. "Yes, in fact, you should come to the wedding on Saturday, especially since you are new here." "Oh, that's nice, but I can't intrude." "Shoot, girl. Coming and celebrating the wedding of 2 friends in the Seattle area is not an intrusion. We will be offended if you don't. Plus, almost everyone will be from the area, and I'm sure you'll make a lot of new friends." "Okay, you persuaded me." "Luke, honey, write her the details. You two really are the cutest couple. Don't you think it's crazy that you both had to go through such hard times to get here?" I can't speak entirely for Luke, but I think he needed the experience that he had to figure himself out. For me, I wouldn't trade anything for the time I spent with Dennis or the joy our 3 children gave me. I loved this man with everything I had. So wishing Luke and I had started differently doesn't matter, and in the end, we might not have succeeded at all. I think it came out just in time, and God knows what he's doing. My love for Luke has never left me, and it is just as strong as the love I felt for Dennis. I'm just lucky to have 2 wonderful people in my life who filled my life with love. This is so cute. It's a real miracle that you can finally be together." "It wasn't a miracle, it was a conspiracy," I said, laughing as Aubrey smacked me on the head. Kaylee and Aubrey agreed on everything behind my back. "That's kind of true," Kaylee added. "When Luke and Sam broke up, I called Aubrey. Luke already told her, but that's not why I called. I asked her when they would both wake up and get together." Aubrey giggled as she took up the story. "By that time, Dennis had been gone for 11 months, and I was almost ready for a new relationship. I have to admit that getting close to Luke was nothing new to me, but I didn't think Luke would be ready either, considering his last breakup was so fresh. Luke and I still talked at least once a week, and I could hear the anger and pain in his voice. So I told Kaylee to work on the healing process since I knew Luke was here almost every evening. I was trying to gauge his progress when Luke called. I already knew I wanted Luke and figured he would be ready around the time I was finally healed to move on. I intervened when Aubrey paused. It took about 6 months, and I found that I couldn't think about anything or anyone except Aubrey. I even thought about quitting my job and moving to Dallas to open my own business in hopes that Aubrey and I could have a future. Of course, he didn't know that I was already planning to return home to Kirkland. Quiet, darling. I'm telling you this. Continue, smart guy. Anyway, they planned when Aubrey was going to show up at the bar to attack me. And then that fool almost ruined everything by disappearing. Kaylee, you ladies can't let a guy tell his story. Sorry. Continue. As I already said, that's when I almost ruined everything. You know the rest. When Aubrey approached me, it was as if I had stepped out of pitch darkness into a magnificent light. When Aubrey spoke, before I could say a word or even finish turning in my chair, I received the deepest, most passionate kiss of my life. I felt it, as if an electric shock made my heart beat faster for the first time. That was a great kiss, baby. Every kiss with you is like this. Anyway, we finally opened our lips. She looked into my eyes and asked, "You tell her, honey." I asked Luke, "Do you love me as much as I just heard you say to Kaylee?" And I answered, "I love you with all my being, and I want us to be a family. Marry me, Aubrey." This was 4 weeks ago. Wait, did you two manage to plan an entire wedding in 4 weeks? Linda, I wasted 16 years pursuing the woman I always wanted. I knew she was right for me from the start, and I ruined it by making too many stupid choices. We weren't going to waste a second more than necessary. The wedding was great. No one will ever convince me that there is a woman more beautiful than Aubrey. Linda actually came to the wedding. She met many people, but she paid special attention to Aubrey's older brother, who turned out to be a bachelor. They have been dating for several months, and Linda has become one of our closest friends. I'm no longer Uncle Luke, but the kids call me Daddy Luke now. They asked if they should call me Dad. I told them that I already loved them as if they were my own, but their father was a special person, and that they should always remember him as a father. Papa Luke would work just fine. Before the wedding, Aubrey asked if I would like to enter into some kind of prenuptial agreement. No way, honey. You are my life and everything in the world for me. Trust me, as far as I'm concerned, there's no need for a plan B. So, 3 reaches to the wind does not require a contract. Never. Being married to you is a joy that far exceeds what I deserve. The days of marrying cheaters are over. Perhaps someday one of our children will write a story about us. Maybe they'll call it "It Only Took 4 Tries" or something like that. Speaking of children, Mr. Riley, we need to freshen up the nursery. My 3 cheating partners from the past have definitely been thrown away and no longer exist for me. Now I can say with every fiber of my being, oh yes, life is beautiful. The main storyline of the story is as follows. Luke Riley shared the story of his life and 3 unsuccessful marriages with his new acquaintance Linda at the bar. His first wife, Harper, cheated on him before they got married. Zoe's second wife started an affair after several years of marriage. Third wife, Sam, cheated on Luke during a business trip, which he found out thanks to a fitness tracker. After each divorce, Luke found solace in his longtime girlfriend, bartender Kaylee. She always supported him, but the true love of Luke's life was his high school sweetheart Aubrey, who married his friend Dennis. After Dennis' death from cancer, Luke decided to confess his love to Aubrey. After seeing Aubrey with another man at a bar, Luke almost abandoned his plans. But it turned out it was her cousin. Aubrey loved Luke all these years too. Thanks to Kaylee's efforts, they were finally able to be together and quickly got married. Luke became a foster father for Aubrey's children and found true family happiness with the woman he loved. Linda also found love at Luke and Aubrey's wedding. Luke's story showed her that it is never too late to meet a soul mate. The main thing is not to despair and believe in the best. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.